How y'all doing? It's your boy, Raymond, back up in here with another review video. Today, we've got a little bit of a different kind of album that I usually listen to. It's by this London-based artist. His name is Tom Misch, or Mitch. I'm not really sure. I don't really know how you pronounce it, but yeah. Basically, I wanted to do a review video on this mainly because any of you who follow like my Snapchat or something or anything like that, I gave this album like a 9.5 out of 10, and I really love it because I think he is a fantastic guitar player and a fantastic artist and singer. I had listened to his previous albums like B-Tape 1 and 2, and also his last big project that really kind of put him on the map, or started to, Geography. And so I had been expecting some new music to come from him lately since Geography dropped like a few years ago. It's been a while. About a month ago, we started getting singles that he was dropping from the album, and a lot of them seemed super promising as sort of he was starting to go into this new realm of like this psychedelic funk and jazz, and it's a very, very moody type of vibe. And then we got this album, and it's called What Kind of Music? The whole album pretty much is psychedelic funk, with a little bit of jazz and a little bit of hip hop influence tossed in here and there, and also some similar sounds from the London jazz scene in which he hails from. What I really wanted to talk about was how this album really sets apart from a lot of the similar genre albums that have come out recently, and just sort of like what sets this album apart from the rest of his discography ever since it just came out like a week ago. The way that I had viewed Tom Misch was that he sort of was going to go into the same realm / genre as somebody that would be sort of like he was sort of going to go into the same realm as someone as like a Daniel Caesar or like an Anderson .Paak, somebody with like the instrumental and vocal chops that a modern day artist I would like to have. You know, someone who has some like hip hop and R&B influence, but likes to stick to the roots of funk, psychedelic funk, jazz, stuff like that, and infuse it into this new modern decade kind of sound. And so I think Tom Misch is starting to become one of those artists that I would definitely compare to as being one of the up and coming innovators of bringing funk and jazz into this new scene of modern instrumentals, modern production, hip hop, and also a little bit of psychedelic trap mixed in there as well. But on this album specifically, what sets it apart from the rest of his projects, especially Geography, was that the songs on Geography felt very formulaic. A lot of them felt like just average like indie funk sort of songs, you know, like Movie. But then there are a few standouts in there that I really enjoyed myself, that I felt like were really trying to push the sound of like indie or hip hop or like new age funk. Tracks like Disco Yes. Disco Yes is a great retro song that sort of takes from like the Earth, Wind and Fire kind of sound, but then places it into this sort of new age funk kind of production. And so you get like this really cool combination. The tempo is very upbeat, something that you can really dance to, like no matter who you are, it's something that you can really dance to. And I thought that was super accessible, and I really love that song. And I really love Geography as an album as well. But the thing that sets this apart was that Tom Misch and also Yussef Dayes, who is on drums and production, helps with the production on this album, they really collab together really extremely well to create this extreme psychedelic atmosphere of this funk, very moody, very heavy kind of album. And the tone of the whole project is something that you really have to listen to the instrumentals to really figure out. The whole thing feels like a chemistry balance between Tom and Yussef. they're just kind of going back and forth with the instrumentals, layering on layering. The guitar playing by Tom is fantastic. And the interesting thing about the instrumentals was that Tom usually likes to sing and harmonize on a lot of the tracks, especially off of Geography. But on this album, Tom really stepped back and allowed the instrumentals to really come out, and allowed a lot of the experimentation and a lot of the different sounds to sort of resonate throughout all of the tracks. I think Tom only really sings on like 3 or 4 of the songs on here, and then the rest of the time it's just pure straight instrumentals, grooves, and Yussef Dayes just going ham on drums for like the entirety of the album. And me as a drummer, I absolutely adored that. Got some interesting features on here, like Rocco Palladino, who is a great synth player. On the track Liftoff, he adds such a different range to a lot of the sounds that come out of that track. The whole thing is just a psychedelic trip. That's like the whole track is just a huge psychedelic trip. The synths really overpower like the rest of the piece. And then also you have like these insane drums and these ad-libs that Yussef is just going off of for like the whole track. And then Tom is just sort of wailing in the background over these different audio effects. And overall, it just sounds very, very intense, but very alive. And you feel like you're being transported somewhere. You know, that's sort of the vibe of this whole album. We also get a feature from Freddie Gibbs on the song Night Rider, which was a very interesting feature, given how the entire psychedelic funk was tone was being portrayed throughout the album. I wasn't really expecting like a hip-hop or rap artist to really come in on the album, but the way that Freddie Gibbs works and raps on Night Rider is very similar to how he would rap on like Pinata or Bandana, with production from Madlib, of course. Madlib kind of gives off like a similar production style that kind of shows up on this album, on What Kind of Music. You can tell there is a little bit of Madlib inspiration, a little sort of littered throughout. You could also see on Geography, Tom also had that one song with Gold Link, and so you could tell that, you know, he was interested and he was getting his name out there in the hip-hop community. Probably some of my favorite tracks on here are probably Tidal Wave, Liftoff, Kiev, and Storm Before the Calm, which I also wanted to mention. Has Kaidi Akanibi, I think that's how you pronounce it. Not 100% sure, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Kaidi Akanibi, he's a saxophonist, and on the track it is just so beautiful. Gives these very Kamasi Washington-esque vibes. A lot of the instrumentals are very similar to Kamasi Washington's work, and it just sounds so entrancing. The saxophone is layered in these audio effects that make it sound super ethereal and psychedelic. The composition of the track is just super interesting, and it's very nice to the ear if you're really into that kind of sound. I already said it, I gave this album like a 9.5 out of 10. I don't know, I just felt like I should have done sort of more of an in-depth review on this album because I loved it so much, and also because this really sort of is an album that I was kind of waiting for an artist to drop. Sort of like this new psychedelic funk sound that had been sort of coming up as of recent years with other bands like Lettuce or like groups like Snarky Puppy, really incorporating that. But I wanted to see it in sort of like a through like a bigger upcoming artist. Maybe I wanted to see it from somebody like a Tom Misch, or like a Tyler the Creator, or like a Daniel Caesar, or like an Anderson .Paak. But I wasn't sure that it was really gonna reach them. But then this album dropped, and it was pretty much everything that I really wanted. Really dug back into the roots of funk from the 70s and from the 80s. And so, yeah, honestly, I couldn't really be much happier with this album. I love it to death. Highly recommend it if you're into that sound and into that kind of vibe. That was all I had to say for it. Probably going to be doing my Kali Uchis review sometime later this week. And of course, we've got New Music Friday coming up since it is Wednesday night. So yeah, gotta look forward to that. So we'll see what drops this Friday, and hopefully I have some new videos coming out this weekend. Be sure to like and subscribe once that happens so that you can keep up on the new videos that I'll be dropping later this week. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Tom, Misch, Yussef Dayes, What Kind of Music? Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.